As a lot of you guys have probably already guessed, I am taking a little trip today. You guys know how much I love my market research, so today I'm flying down south to check out an event that's going on that I have been excited about for quite a while. I made it to my hotel just as the sun was setting, and then I was up bright and early the next morning to head out to the event. I really tried my hardest to be clean for this, but spilt my coffee before I even left this morning. I always like to get to these events right when they open so I can get the best look at the horses before too many people are around them. And after a short little drive, I finally made it to the fairgrounds where the event is being held. A few of you guys have probably guessed already that I am at another one of the BLM Mustang events. This one is a couple of days long, but I'm showing up just for the auction, so let's go check out the horses. This event has already been going on for the last 2 days, so the horses are a little bit more acclimated to people than the other events that I've attended. All of the horses in this section are going to be adopted out unhandled, but there is a whole another arena with Mustangs that have been gentled over either 100 days or the last 3 days, if you can believe that. Something that's really cool about this event is that all of these Mustangs are from the same HMA that is not very far away from where the event is being held. I've heard a lot about these Mustangs in the past, and they do not come up for adoption very often, so I'm excited to get a look at these guys firsthand. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Mustangs, every little herd is in their own HMA or herd management area. The horses I'm looking at today are from the Little Book Cliffs Wild Horse Range, and it is one of 4 HMAs located in Colorado. This is probably one of the easiest HMAs to visit. It is pretty close to a major highway, and there are designated hiking and horseback riding trails that you can visit. For that reason, I would bet that these horses are fairly acclimated to people. Here you can see a map of the HMA and then a few trails that run throughout it. The 36,000 acres that this HMA falls on is pretty rugged terrain. It is high desert and there's not a lot of forage for the horses. I do know that this HMA is one that is controlled by PZP, which is a fertility drug that they give to the mares. I'm not 100% sure on the amount of horses they gathered last year, but this event is going to have around 50. With it being a bit later in the year and early summer, I can imagine that some of the mares that were gathered are probably foaling right now and holding. So I did hear talk of a few mares that were supposed to be here but were not included, and I bet they're having their babies right now. One thing I noticed right away at this event is they do have quite a few older horses available. Overall, they do seem a bit more quiet than what I'm used to. This mare here was doing a bunch of yawning. She's just trying to self-regulate her stress. It looks like I'm one of the first people here from the public, and I'll be interested to see how this girl settles in as the day goes on. The setup they have here is pretty typical for a BLM event. They have little pens and then a central alley, and they are going to be loading them out from a hydraulic chute, it looks like. Something that really surprised me was the variation in color amongst all these horses, but you guys know me, I'm always drawn to the little brown ponies. Another thing I noticed right away was how much bone these horses have. They have really thick legs, even this short little peanut. This girl is a really pretty dark chestnut. I think I see a few little white hairs there on her belly, so technically I think she's probably a roan. The ground that these horses live on is very rocky, so you can definitely see that in their hoof health. This pen has ages from 3 years old all the way up to the Palomino, which is 10. I don't typically see horses of this age where I live available for adoption because typically the younger horses are more sought after. There's only a handful of people walking around now, so I'll be really interested to see how many people show up for the actual auction today. If you guys have never seen one of these events before, I'll link a bunch of them that I've been to before in the comments so you can kind of see the differences. Because this HMA is so close to people, I do believe that most of these horses do have range names and they know their lineage, which is really cool. I have a feeling that that is going to make them more desirable. Anytime you get any extra information about the horses, it makes it better for them when they're trying to find a new permanent home. This group of horses was really interesting. We have the dark bay guy there in the back who is a little bit on the plump side, and then this little seal brown horse that is really a bit nervous. He is much closer to what I'm used to seeing. They did have their hydraulic chute getting tested this morning, so it was making a little bit of extra noise. But overall, it didn't seem to be spooking the horses too much. It's important to remember that when these horses were gathered, they were all studs at different places in the herd, and it's really easy to tell in this pen who was in charge and who was just following everybody around. Another thing that I wanted to show you guys was the eyes on these horses. This guy is fairly relaxed and his eyelid is like a dome shape. He's got a very soft eye, and you guys always ask me what I mean when I talk about that, so this will be a really good example. While this sorrel horse is pretty calm and chill, this black or seal brown horse is really nervous about everything. You can see that he does have quite a few scrapes and bites on him. Compared to the sorrel horse, he does have a pointy eyelid, so he is quite a bit stressed right now. It can be really hard to pick out one horse when you go to one of these events, and it's important to pick out one that is going to be successful, and most people are going to want to look for a horse that's a little bit more on the calm side. They're calling this really nervous horse black, and it does look like he may just be a little bit sun bleached right now. He certainly is much more worried about everything than the other horses, and he seems to be having a little bit of a hard time adjusting. This is a really good side-by-side to see the difference between one that's a little bit stressed and one that's having an okay time with all of the things that are going on around them. The horses that I tend to gravitate to are more like this black horse, but I think he would be a very difficult horse for a first-time adopter or somebody that has little to no training experience. I've only been here about 10 minutes, and the white horse that was a little bit stressed in the beginning is now taking a nap, so she seemed to be able to self-regulate quite easily. Out of all the horses I've seen so far, probably the one that would be the most difficult to adopt and train is the black horse with all of the little bites and scrapes on him. I really haven't been able to find anything to fault these other horses, so this is a really nice group of Mustangs. There seems to be quite a bit of diversity in the colors. This is a really pretty blue roan in here with this sorrel. And after she moves around and I get a better look at her, she actually appears to be a variation of a red dun. She's got that dorsal stripe, which is really cool. I have a feeling that these two girls are going to be pretty popular today. The sorrel, who is definitely a dun, is 5, and the blue roan is 2. With her 4 white little socks, she is a pretty flashy girl. One thing that I did notice about this horse is she does look a little bit pregnant to me. Since all of these horses were from the latest Little Book Cliffs gather, it's really easy to find information on them. The BLM is really transparent when they have a gather. Usually you can go out and watch if you make a reservation. And it looks like last year around the beginning of September, they did gather approximately 140 horses. Most of the time, the reason that they do gather these different herd management areas is so there aren't too many horses on the range. In addition to holding some of the horses back for adoption, they did treat the mares with fertility control. This will hopefully slow down the rate at which these horses reproduce and prevent them from having to do future gathers. Before last year, it had been 6 years since there was a gather, and I know there's going to be people here today that are very excited about adopting one of these horses. After the gather, you can go on and see all the information for the day, how many horses they rounded up, how many they sent to holding, and then how many they turned back out on the range. A lot of people still don't know how this works, and when I looked for some news clippings on this, I was disappointed to see that they were using B-roll from a completely different area. This is what the HMA actually looks like. It's a lot of sage, it's high desert, there's not a lot of things around for these horses to eat. It's very difficult to balance the health of the range and the health of the horses, and the gathers allow them to manage it a little bit more appropriately. These horses have been in holding at a facility in Canyon City for the last 9 months, so it is entirely possible that there might be a pregnant horse in here. The BLM typically doesn't confirm or deny it either way. Sometimes they do pull blood, which I think they may have done on these horses just to test. But I do know of several surprise foals that have come out of a herd that was gathered pretty recently, so there is a possibility that there might be a few sneaky 2-for-1s in this group. These two girls are looking pretty fit and trim, so I doubt that they are pregnant. That blue roan is only 2 years old, but it is entirely possible that she was bred as a yearling, which does happen on the range. These two girls, on the other hand, do look a little bit on the plump side. I think this could be just from their feed. All of the horses look really well fed. Their feet look fabulous. And out of all of the other adoptions I've been to, I'd say that this is one of the better looking bunches of horses. These 3 girls are the perfect age to get started with their halter breaking and then turn into a really nice usable saddle horse. Since this HMA isn't gathered very often, I don't know that I have any friends that own any of these horses. Part of the event that they've been holding the last couple of days has been a gentling demonstration with a few of the horses. All of the Mustangs are of course different, but an HMA like this one, where they're a little bit more acclimated to people, could cause them to be a little bit easier to gentle in the beginning. If you guys have been watching my channel, you know that I do have a horse that was off a reservation. She was so terrified of people when I got her that I would be standing on the outside of her pen and she would be trying to scale the panels. It is crazy to see the comparison between these horses who I'm standing relatively close to and they don't care at all. I think one of the most important things to think about when you are maybe going to be adopting a Mustang is what your training goals are and if they are realistic given your experience level. I did notice that all of the horses here today are up for adoption. There are no sale authority horses, so I think that does add a little bit of extra protection to these guys. Any of the horses picked up today are technically still property of the BLM for the next year until the new owners get the title. As I got to the last pen of horses, I did notice 2 of these guys. This little Palomino looked familiar, and then definitely this Appaloosa I've seen before. I'm fairly certain these are the 2 boys when they were gathered. As the event goes on, I'm feeling a lot better that most of these horses will go into wonderful homes. There is a lot of information about these guys out there. And compared to some of the events I've been to in the past, it seems like adopters are a lot more realistic and prepared. Here is a little shot of the hydraulic chute. Hopefully I'll be able to catch some of these horses getting loaded out so you guys can see that. This flashy sorrel horse was another one that was a little bit more on the nervous side, but overall these horses do seem to be fairly calm. Typically, when I go to these events, it's really easy for me to pick out a few horses right in the beginning that I definitely do not want, but that is proving to be more difficult with this group of horses. It looks like they are checking out the hydraulic chute just to make sure everything is working. I do think they're going to try and load out a bunch of the horses tonight after they do get adopted, and then the rest will be loaded out tomorrow morning. I know a lot of you guys think that it's silly I go to these events when I typically don't have any plans of adopting a horse. I do think it's important to get out and see all the different horses and sharpen your eye so that when you're ready to adopt, you can. These events are also always open to the public, so it never hurts to come and look at these horses and see what's available. With my initial run done, I'm going to go back and take a closer look at some of the horses. For good measure, I'm also going to pick up a bidder number just in case. When I wandered over to the arena, I was really surprised to see how nice and gentle down these horses were. I think this is the perfect way for someone to get involved in the Mustangs if they do not have the experience to gentle one themselves. In my opinion, the initial gentling process is the most important, and unfortunately, it's where a lot of mistakes are made. Having a program like this is definitely the perfect way to bridge the gap and allow less experienced adopters to find a horse that they can actually get along with. These horses were gentled in conjunction with a nonprofit called Friends of the Mustangs, and I didn't know it, but this nonprofit has been working with the Little Book Lifts horses since before I was born. It would be really cool if more herd management areas had nonprofits like this, helping in conjunction with the BLM, making sure that these horses get everything they need out on the range and then when they're gathered and sent to their new homes. This guy was really cool. I don't think I've shown one of these before on my channel, but he is a sooty buckskin. Next to him, I saw that there was another dun. This is another red dun. Diluted just like the last one. She doesn't have any primitive markings on her legs, but she does have a stripe down her back. None of these horses are broke to ride. They just have basic handling, haltering, trailering, picking up their feet. The perfect foundation for someone to take home and continue their training with. I believe this is one of the Mustangs that was picked for the 3-day gentling adventure. I did catch tidbits of it online. They did some live streaming so you could see exactly what each of the trainers were doing with their horses. Today, they are going to be auctioning off the horses over in this arena first. It does look like they are getting ready to have a meeting for all the bidders, so I am going to sneak on over and see what they have to say. I am not quite acclimated to this heat, and it was really nice to feel the sprinklers on when I went back into the other arena, and it looked like the horses appreciated it as well. I did notice a bunch of the horses were playing in their water troughs, so hopefully this will keep them from doing any more shenanigans and keeping their water a bit more clean. Even with the crowds of people around and the random car alarm going off, these horses seem to be pretty well adjusted. The holding facility that these horses were kept at for the last 9 months was at the prison, so it's not open to the public. This seems to be just their general temperament. They seem pretty okay with humans compared to a lot of the other horses I've seen. As I was taking one quick last peek through the horses, I noticed this cute little bay mare. This girl was super cute, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but she just had a really calm energy about her. I also noticed, unfortunately, that this Palomino seemed a little bit lame. It does look like she had a rock in her foot or something. I went down to check on the nervous Nelly, and I was surprised to see him standing quietly next to the other bigger gelding in this pen, who I am certain was one of the higher up range stallions when he was out. He reminded me a lot of Studman, just a really calm energy, and the other horses seemed to just do whatever he wanted. When they're in holding, these horses are in much larger groups than this, and I think it's probably a good thing that this black one is going to be separated out and on his way to a new home where maybe he'll be able to relax a little bit more. Even though right now I am 2 short plane rides away from my house, it really wouldn't be that hard for me to find someone to come pick up a horse for me if I decided I wanted one. The nice thing about Mustang people is they typically are really eager to lend a helping hand when you want to adopt your own horse. With the time available to preview horses drawing to an end, it was now time to go over some of the ins and outs of what was going to happen today. The nonprofit that's responsible for setting up all of the gentling at this event has been around since 1982. There are a lot of nonprofits popping up that do help Mustangs, but it's really cool that this one works in conjunction with the BLM to help them in the best way that they can.
All of you, you've bid on everything that you wanted to bid on. 300 will go up or down from there. On the 6 for the Mustangers, 200. Minimum bid that we can take on any horse here today is 125.
After going over some more information, it was now time to get to bid on the horses. Typically, events by me do have 1 or 2 saddle started Mustangs, and they typically sell for around $1,500 to $3,500. So I'll be really excited to see once this gets going how much these guys sell for. Each horse had a few minutes for their trainers to talk about them, so they found the best home. It was really hard for me not to bid on this little brown horse. He ended up selling for only $450. With only a few halter started Mustangs, the prices slowly started to go up. A few of the trainers were really excited to take their horses home, and in that case, everyone did their part to step aside and let them take home their horse for the minimum bid. With only a few horses left, this pretty Palomino ended up being the high seller at $2,075. It's really hard to say how many people were at the event today, but as we moved over to the round pen to see the 3-day gentled horses sale, it was apparent that there were several hundred people that showed up. The 3-day horses were a pretty good representation of how some horses can become very gentle after 3 days, and then there were a few that were a little bit more apprehensive. While some of the horses were able to be haltered and get their manes and tails braided, some of them were still nervous about being in a round pen surrounded by dozens of people. This is a very difficult environment for a wild horse to get used to, even if they do have a few days to adjust. This little sorrel peanut was my favorite out of the 3-day gentled horses. This little dude was wearing a halter. He was giving to pressure pretty basically, but when the crowd got a little bit too excited, you could tell that he's not quite halter broke yet. With the amount of time they had and the environment that the horses were in, it is still pretty impressive. I wanted to take another look at the cute little bay horse that I had seen earlier. To my surprise, when I stood at the fence, she came over like she expected me to scratch her. It only took a little bit of convincing for her to slide up next to the fence and get scratched all over. Typically, this is not something that happens with the Mustangs that I usually see at these events. This girl was super chill, and I scratched her for maybe 5 minutes, and I was regretting it a little bit because anytime you see someone scratching one of these horses at an event, they instantly become the most favorite horse of everybody around. I don't plan on taking home any horses today, so if this helps her get adopted, then I'm all for it. The last 2 years, I've been exercising an extreme amount of restraint every time I go to one of these events. When we finally get our new place and I have much more space for one of these Mustangs, I'm going to be really excited to go to one of these and actually be able to pick one out and bring one home. But for now, these little scratches with this mare really made my day. They are taking a little lunch break, and then we'll come back and these horses will be for auction. This sweet bay horse is 6 years old and she is not even 14 hands, so she is definitely on the shorter side. It was nice to see this black horse settling down a little bit since this morning. It seems like he is getting used to all these people and a little bit less frantic overall. Still not as calm as the other horses, but it seems like he's getting settled down and learning that these humans aren't all that bad. I did see a few other nonprofits wandering around, and it sounds like they are going to adopt a lot of the horses that don't go to private homes. The auction for these guys is going to be a timed silent auction, so it's very similar to one of the ones I went to earlier this year, but I feel like there's going to be a lot more traffic on these sheets. The bidding is going to run for 30 minutes, and then at the end, if there are horses with no bids, they are going to be offered for adoption at the $125 minimum. I'm thinking all of the cooler colored horses are going to be adopted, and then maybe some of the plain bays and sorrels will be left over. I do believe this is the first auction that I have attended where there are more bidder numbers than horses, so it'll be interesting to see if all of them get a home today. I didn't want to miss anything, and I did snag a quick lunch right as the bidding was started. Each pen had a clipboard for each horse where people could go down and write their bids. Each pen also had someone supervising so things didn't get too out of hand. But for the most part, everybody was very respectful, and even if they were duking it out over one horse that they both wanted, it seemed to be going along pretty smoothly. It was really nice to see that most of the horses did have bids on them. There were only a handful that didn't have someone run up and put a bid down right away. Unfortunately, my phone was about to die, so I did have to go recharge and was able to make it out right before the bidding ended. I think the most popular horse was this little blue roan filly. She had tons of bids on her sheet. The prices were still much cheaper than the gentled horses, with increments of $25. Even with a bunch of bids on one horse, they were still staying pretty reasonably priced. As I was walking around, I remembered the last time I was here, I was actually showing a Mustang of my own. There's something special about these horses that really keeps drawing you back to them. And it seems like once you dip your toes in, it's really hard to stay away for too long. After being pretty involved with the Mustang some years ago, I think it's finally time that I get back into it. I used to think I was really good at training horses back then, but I have learned so much more over the last couple of years. When the adoption was over, all of the horses ended up finding new homes. A little part of me was bummed to come back in the evening and find that my little black horse that was nervous got adopted. It did seem like he got the perfect home at a non-profit sanctuary where he can have lots of horse friends and doesn't have to be around humans a whole lot. I was able to catch one of the horses loading up into the hydraulic chute for you guys. This is a little bit different than how they do it around me. It seems super handy. They just open a little door, take off the net tag, and then run them onto the trailer. As I was heading out for the night, I got wrangled in by a little cowboy who wanted to show me his new horse. When are you taking her home? Today? You in line? Oh.
Yeah.
That's good.
You should have been earlier.
One in here?
Yeah.
She's bigger than that other one, huh?
She over.
How old are you?
98.
You're 8?
So I don't think you should get a full view.
I was really hoping I'd have some time to visit these horses on the range, but I was advised that my rental car was probably not the best vehicle to take out there. It is definitely going on my list of things to do in the future, and as I head out for the day, I'm pretty grateful that all of these horses did get adopted out. It was a really cool event, and hopefully there'll be more like this in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.